Our Bible reading today comes from 2 Kings 18:17 to 25. The king of Assyria sent his supreme commander, his chief officer, and his field commander with a large army to Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. They came up to Jerusalem and stopped at the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to Washerman's field. They called for the king, and Ekalem, son of Hilkiah, the place administrator, Sheba the secretary, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder, went out to them. The field commander said to them, "Tell Hezekiah, this is what the great king, the king of Assyria, says. On what are you basing this confidence of yours? You say you have the counsel and the might of war, but you speak only in empty words. On whom are you depending that you rebel against me? Look, I know that you are depending on Egypt, that splintered reed of a staff, which pierces the hand of anyone who leans on it. Such is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who depend on him. But if you say to me, we are depending on the Lord our God, isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah removed, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, you must worship this altar in Jerusalem? Come now, make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria. I will give you 2,000 horses if you can find riders on them. How can you repulse one officer of the least of my master's officials, even though you are depending on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Furthermore, I have come to attack and destroy this place without word from the Lord. The Lord himself told me to march against this country and destroy it."
I didn't hear any amens after that scripture. Let us pray. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Well, hello to you who are here today. Good morning, church, and hello to those joining online. Hello to those watching this later. Welcome to worship service with us. If you haven't been watching the whole service and maybe just see this snippet later, that's just kind of the sermon, do yourself a favor, go back, watch the service. We've had brilliant music here today. It has been a great time, and yes, that got me. I mean, my blood was pumping on that one. It was good, and it's just been good. And I don't know if you noticed it, but we always sing that "Shine, Jesus, Shine." Not only was I ready for the clap, I did it flawlessly the whole time. That's right. You can teach an old dog new tricks, so there's hope for us all. Thank you very much. Yeah. So as we're here today, we are worshiping together, and we're coming to the word of the Lord, and it's a doozy here today. In fact, we're in a sermon series, and the sermon series is titled Underdogs, right, of big, huge giants against little people, and how God just has worked in different ways. And specifically, we've been actually looking at some of the battle stories, and a lot of them, of the scriptures and what has happened in those. And today, we're actually looking at arguably one of the biggest, big underdog stories, maybe the biggest one as far as the wars and stuff like that of the Old Testament. And as you come to this story, it's real interesting, but I want to introduce it to you like I have these last few weeks with a sports analogy. That's right. And in fact, I know it's warm in here today. I think our AC is having a little trouble keeping up, but I'm going to make it nice and cool for you today, because I'm going to talk about the greatest upset of all sports history. Take you back to 1980, Lake Placid, New York. My favorite story of all of sports, in addition to being the biggest upset story of all time. This is kind of the end of the Cold War, if you will. So the Soviet Union is still around, and they are really good at hockey, right? In fact, they're so good at hockey, they have their professional players playing in the hockey at the Olympics, which wasn't allowed, but they found some loophole. The Soviets kind of like to do that. Found a loophole to get them in anyways. And so they have been coming. They have won the last 4 Olympics in hockey. And in fact, if you go back even further than that, they won the last 5 out of 6 before Lake Placid, New York. No one could ultimately take them. They were the juggernaut of all juggernauts. It was an amazing team. Some of them made the Hall of Fame. Now, you may not mention or know some of these names, but they're big. You can go to the Hockey Hall of Fame and find them. There was Vladislav Tretiak. There was Vyacheslav Vetesin. I can't even talk right now because there's these Russian names, but Fetisov and Sergei Makarov. And so you got some of them, but you also got these other names that you probably, if you're not a huge hockey fan, have never heard of. But list after list, Hockey Hall of Famers, these guys were good, right? And in fact, if you go back and just look at some of these things beforehand, it's really amazing. The last 4 Olympics, they had beat their opponents 175-44 in goals for and against, right? These guys were good, right? And they were playing not on an even playing field, right? The rest of the world had their amateurs coming out and playing. In fact, Canada had gotten so mad at losing hockey because, Canadians in hockey, you can't have that happen, losing all the time. And so they actually boycotted some of the Olympics back in the day. Didn't want to even be part of them because they said this isn't fair. But eventually, of course, you know what happens, and eventually professionals were allowed in all sports at a later time. But this was not the day, and so we had our team come out. Instead of Hockey Hall of Famers, they only became Hockey Hall of Famers because of what happened, of course. But as far as their talent in playing in the NHL or anything like that, no, sir, not really. And we had our amateur college kids coming out and playing the Soviet Union and other teams, of course, as well. And in fact, if you look at our team, we only had one person on it that had played in any Olympics ever before, and the rest were all college kids pretty much. And our main players were all college kids, and they all mostly came from the University of Boston, the University of Minnesota, who had a good rivalry kind of thing going on back then. And there was even an exhibition game, because they like to do these before, playing the real Olympics. So Madison Square Garden, February, I think it was 3rd, 1980. Soviet Union plays the U.S., and they slacked us. It was 10-3 final score, and I don't think the Soviets even broke a sweat doing it, right? I mean, this team was indomitable. They were huge. They were the big, huge empire of the day, taking on anybody in hockey they could possibly want, wiping the floor with them, and, of course, doing it in good fashion. So, of course, you fast forward, and the Olympics come, right? And all of a sudden, this little American team turns out playing pretty good, right? And if you don't remember this is actually different. The rules were different back then. You had to play in round robins. So you kind of had your group. And then if you made your group, if you did a good enough group, you went on that took kind of the 4 finalists, if you will, 2 from one group, 2 from another group. Those teams came together and they did a round robin, right? And so if you look at just the scores, the U.S. actually had to work really hard just to play Russia, or the Soviet Union, I should say, in the first place. First, they had to play Sweden, which ended up becoming a huge showdown because they barely tied it with just 20 seconds left. And that tie became actually the reason why they won the gold cup, or the gold medal, because it was a round robin, remember? So actually, if they hadn't have won this game, or at least tied it, it would have come down to goal differential, and the Soviets would have won it anyways, right? But just kind of heads up there, they had to win. They barely tied it with Sweden. They had to pull the goalie. Last 27 seconds left in one of the opening round games. Got it tied, at least got the L off the list and got the tie. They went on to play the second best team in the world at the time, Czechoslovakia, and all of a sudden everybody went, whoa, because they beat them 7-2, or 7-3 it was, 7-3, and everybody was like, holy cow, we got a team, right? And everybody started waking up here at this point because you had tied Sweden, beat Czechoslovakia, you went on to beat Norway 5-1, Romania 7-2, Germany 4-2. You made it out of the group with Sweden, and you got the wonderful opportunity to play the Soviet Union next game. Of course, everybody knew it was going to happen. The Soviets were going to come out with dominance like they had in all their games. They had just destroyed their group. I mean, it wasn't even close. They just went through and just handed it to them and sent them back crying, right? And the Soviets came out, right, and played so hard. Soviets score 9-12 into the game, 1-0. It was just, but then 14:03, we score, and it's 1-1. And then 17:34, they score again, and they were up 2, we're down to 1, and they start piling on at this point. If you ever go back and watch the game, like, they start bringing it. I mean, they just got the momentum, it keeps coming, and we go into period 2, we're outplayed again, and they score on us again on that one goal. So now, not only is it's going on, but you have a score of not only it's not 2-2, but it's now 2-3. The Soviets have the advantage, and so you're going in, and we get outplayed. But then period 3 comes along, and all of a sudden there's a power play, and it was one of these ones where there's the power play is going on. All of a sudden deflections happen, and boom, score! We're tied, right? So the game keeps going on, and it keeps going. Everybody's going, it's crazy, and they're keeping up with them. And then 10 minutes left, they leave our captain undefended out of all the things. And a pass goes to our captain. Captain shoots, score! Right? And it's 4-3, but there's 10 minutes left, and then the Russians are bringing it. I mean, the Soviet, I keep saying Russians, but the Soviet Union starts bringing it, right? And they bring it, and the whole game you're sitting there going, just hold on. And you watch this game, and there's shot after shot, goalpost, goal, their kick saves. I mean, like, it's just coming. The goal's they're going to score any second, and it keeps coming. The clock keeps ticking. And we get a couple offensive opportunities, get them off their heels, and then you see they get in their head. They start taking shots that are just wide, like they're not even hitting the goal anymore. I mean, stuff's going on, things are going crazy, and all of a sudden you go, we might win this thing, right? As you're watching it, and you get to the end of the game, and I'll never, you can go back and watch. It's one of these Al Michaels, his famous commentary at the time, where he was doing the play-by-play and all that stuff. And let me just bring you back there. He's last final ticks of the seconds. He says, 11 seconds. You got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Mara up to Silk. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Right? And the U.S. beat. That's right. Miracle on Ice, they named it, right? I mean, and if you go back and watch and you just think about what happened, it's like a Canadian college football team taking on the Super Bowl champs of decades and beating them, right? I mean, if you just look at the skill set difference, I mean, it's not even close, right? It was such an amazing feat, amazing thing that happened. It's one of those things that I don't know if you ever truly see it happening. And the closest thing I can think of it was remember we had the dream teams on basketball, and they were just amazing. But remember when they were like really good, and eventually we kept the dream team up, but eventually everybody just fought. No one played together. And even though they had, they were the best in the world, they didn't really try, and they ended up losing one of those Olympics, and it kind of ended then. But like for a while there, imagine the first dream team. And then imagine someone like Japan just coming up and beating them, right? Knocking them out of the tournament, if you will. Like it was just so unheard of. It was something I don't think we'll ever truly see ever again, and it was just amazing to see. And if you don't remember, it didn't end there, right? It was a round robin tournament. They had to go on and play Finland, I believe, at that point. Yeah, it was Finland, and they had to actually not only it was one of these gold medal games and round robin rules. And so, if you don't remember, they were down 2-1 in that game going into the third, right? And they had to come back. They ended up winning it 4-2. And again, if you go back and they hadn't beat Sweden, because Sweden ended up counting because they made the group, so it counted as part of the round robin. If they had lost that game, their record would have been the same as the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would have gotten a goal differential. And even though we beat them, they still would have won. So it's one of those deals that was like just the amount of things that had to even go right outside the miracle on ice was absolutely, truly one of these amazing, amazing feats of sports history. And if you're not seeing the movie, go do yourself a favor. It's a good one. You're gonna cry, right? And when you leave it, you're gonna go USA, USA. So anybody not USA here today, if you're into hockey, I'm sorry. For any Canadians watching, you guys beat us that other one. Remember, there was another one not so long ago that you guys held and you beat us, and so you can take that with you. But my point is that in sports sometimes you get what I like to call right now the cat and the mouse situation, right? It's not even. You've seen a cat play with a mouse, right? They just toy with it, right? The mouse has no chance, right? And in fact, in wars, it was the same way. Always the same way. There were great, huge empires that were the cats. And there were the little mice kingdoms that if they stood up, they got trounced, right? The cats just played with them, did whatever they wanted to these little kingdoms, and they had to be vassals to even survive, if not, pay tributes and all these different things. But when you look at history, before now, you've had Egypt, which was a cat. We recognize them. And then you get going, you get the Assyrians who were here. You get later the Babylonians, you get the Persians, you get then eventually the Greeks intertestamental. And then you get eventually the biggest empire the world arguably has ever known, which is the Roman Empire, right? But where we are in history is Egypt is really on the down and outs, if you will. They're there, but they're not really the Egypt they used to be. And the big powerhouse are the Assyrians. And if you know, I'm not going to get into details now because I know there may be some young people watching and listening, but if you ever listen to the stuff they did to people, they took jerkdom to a whole new level, right? Like a lot of the atrocities that end up happening in our history, if you go back to the Assyrians, they started so many of these and so many horrible things that they did to people. I mean, they were not good people at all. And they come a-knocking. And God had to just take you back in time. Remember, God had promised when they brought him out of Egypt, when he brought the Israelites out of Egypt, he brought them to the land. He said, all right, this is going to be your land, and I'm going to be your God. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to stand up for you. And if you keep following me, you continue this covenant, you're going to be just fine, right? And I'm going to establish my kingdom of the whole earth through you, and you're going to be the blessing to all nations, and this world is going to get back on track because of what you do and how I'm going to work through you. And Israel goes, okay. And then immediately they start making golden calves, right? And they start worshiping other gods. And in fact, when they get into the land, what's the first thing that they go, hey, these guys are kind of cool. I kind of like these gods, right? And so they start worshiping. They get to the point even in history where they're doing all sorts of stuff that they shouldn't be doing. acting like the people that God had taken out of Canaan and allowed the Israelites to come into, and eventually get to the point where God has told them time and time again, and even to the point where the kingdom has been split into two. There's a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. And God has said, guys, if you don't wake up, this is going to be over. The covenant's going to be over. I want to let these people come in, these big empires around the world. They're going to come in and they're going to take you away. And the northern kingdom says, yeah, we don't really care. We're going to do what we want anyways. And so the kingdom that comes in and takes them away is Assyria. And when they come in, they transpose the trop. I can't talk right now. They take the population, take it somewhere else is what I'm trying to say. And they take it back and they take it up back to where they're from. They transplant them and bring them to a new place and bring other people and bring them down to their land and take it over and get them all discombobulated in so doing that way. And then there is the southern kingdom. This is the kingdom of Judah. So that if you're ever reading the scripture, this is the king of Judah. They last, and Hezekiah is now the king. And Judah has one king, good king. The next king, bad king. Good king, bad king. Good king, bad king. So they get on track, get right off track. Get on track, get off track, right? And God's been warning them, guys, stay on track. Well, Hezekiah comes, and he is a king that wants to be on track. He starts putting Israel, he starts taking down places, and he starts taking and destroying them all, bringing back the glory of the Lord and his temple. And he's done such a good job that even though Assyria is knocking on the door, the big question is God going to be done with God's people? Let them just be wiped out, transplanted to a different land, brought to a new place. And so God is at this moment, and here's the big story, right, is what's going to happen, because the little kingdom of Judah is a little mouse. And the kingdom of Assyria is the big cat that's coming. And so as you get to this point, you're wondering what's going to happen. And well, eventually, Hezekiah, in his beginning years of the kingdom, it tells us that he basically had to pay his vassals. So he has to go through and he has to get a bunch of gold from the temple and send gold to the Assyrian king. And so actually a lot of Israel's, Judah, that is, a lot of their money and all that goes away at that point. But he's still a vassal, and eventually it gets to the point where Assyria wants more. They really can't pay more. Assyria wants them to do something. They really can't go along with it. And so what do? You team up with other people. So they've been kind of hanging out with the Egyptians. Again, now think about how odd that is, right? The whole story of Israel is coming from Egypt to become the Israelites, and now they're kind of leaning on Egypt to protect them, if you will. But Hezekiah has gotten to the point where he's there, and there's been just something going on. We don't actually, Scripture doesn't tell us exactly how it happens, but at some point, Hezekiah rebels. To the point where he doesn't do exactly what the Assyrians, tell him to do. And so they come and knocking, and they come. It tells us they bring, listen to this, the supreme commander, the chief officer, and his field commander with his large army. They come knocking. That says they destroy the fortified cities of Judah. And in fact, there's a place called Lachish, and Lachish is this kind of desert fortification. It was very, very good defendable. And that it was such a gruesome battle, such a destroying battle. It was such a big, huge triumph to get Lachish from the Judites that the actual king of Assyria put it in his throne room. And you can actually, I got pictures in my Bible. You can go look it up. He actually has pictures